let's roll up to Oklahoma in Tulsa and talk to good man Kyle. What's up, Kyle?
Oh my gosh, I am on the phone with Dr. John Delony.
Actually, I'm just AI. I'm just a computer version of myself. What's up, man?
I hope you can be just as helpful.
Yeah, way more helpful with a computer. What's up?
Awesome. My gosh. So I have a question, but I do have a quick funny note about your show and how it's affected my wife and I real quick, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it, man.
So I've been drinking an ocean of Delony Kool-Aid over the last month, like 60 episodes, something like that. And yesterday I told my wife I took out the bananas from the freezer, cut off the tips because that's what she asked me to do, and I didn't do it because I thought she was being silly. And I told her that it was wrong of me to do that and invalidate her feelings just because, and exercise my control over it and say, nope, I'm not cutting off the tips. And she goes, you've been listening to your podcast again, haven't you?
See, for all the fruit lovers out there, I got your back, guys. I got your back. Well done, Kyle. I'm glad to see you making those big changes. I'm still cheating on her, and I still drink too much, but I'm cutting the tips off the bananas. We're starting baby steps, Kyle. Way to go.
Yeah.
Way to go.
So my question, my oldest son is 20 years old. We've been estranged for quite some time. And he recently, in the last couple of weeks, started calling and wants to start to rebuild the relationship.
Why are you estranged?
I gave him a really rough childhood. And then when he was about 12, his mom and I got divorced and I moved away.
When you say you gave him a rough childhood, what does that mean?
Oh, shoot. For a long time, I refused to admit that I was being abusive. Never left like bruises or anything like that, but just constant yelling, screaming. He couldn't do anything right. Escalating consequences. It was just, I can't imagine how miserable he was growing up.
What flipped the switch for you, man? Hold on, let me just say this. I've got a little boy myself, and so I'm gonna be super candid with you. Is that cool?
Yep.
I got a little boy myself, and so part of me has an I can't describe it other than it's like a thermometer, like an insta rage inside of me when I hear this, and I also have like an instant sense of compassion because what you just said out loud is really hard to do. There's not there's not a lot of Oklahoma dads who are willing to look back and go, "What have I done?" Right? And so I'm proud of you. What flipped that switch for you, man?
Listening to you, really. I always felt it and knew that I was bad, but starting to listen to your show and how you talk about trauma and how it affects little kids and how they hold on to that forever. And
well, they don't hold on to it. It just becomes their nervous system. It just becomes wired into their bodies, right? It's not like they're like, just let it go. Like, no, that's just how their bodies have chosen to just keep them safe. So he moved away with your ex-wife, and then did you get remarried, have a new family?
I did.
Okay, how's that going?
It's going awesome.
Have you learned from your past mistakes?
Oh, immensely.
Okay, awesome.
Immensely.
Good for you, man. Good for you. So he's almost a grown man now, and he reaches out. Why did he reach out?
So he did come down here, and he moved in with me when he was 17, with the agreement to finish his final year of school. And then COVID hit, and he lost all of his new friends that he had made down here. And so he moved back to Wisconsin with his mom. And things just got worse and worse. There's a long history of lying and manipulation and just not taking responsibility for anything.
And you know how that develops, right? Just for people listening, if you are a young kid and you can't do anything right, and everything is met with screaming and spanking times too hard, and you know the difference. And at a moving target on how do I keep dad from getting so mad, a kid peels off and learns how to be very deceptive and never tell the truth because he doesn't. You know what I'm saying? It's a very adaptive strategy.
Yep, that makes perfect sense.
It keeps the young kid alive and also destroys his adulthood because then he gets fired from jobs as he should, and he gets his romantic partners leave him as they should because he can't tell the truth. He's just become deceptive. So, and also this often comes with substance abuse issues. Is he struggling with that too?
No.
Okay. Good for him.
Nope.
So, what's your hesitancy?
There's been so many bridges burned, and the original divorce was just so extremely toxic. The marriage was extremely toxic, and I took out a lot of my frustrations with my marriage on him because nothing was changing in the marriage.
So hold on. It sounds like you burned the bridges. And anytime somebody has a relationship dysfunction with a child, I'm always going to look at the adult in the room and say, you got to go first. And so if there's ever going to be a bridge built, you've got to build it. You can't expect a kid to build that bridge back. It's not their job.
Yep. And we tried. And when he came down here, when he was 17 to live with us, we tried.
Yeah, but I mean, you went from one teeter-totter to the other. That's a lot. Because even if he wants to, if he moves back in with you as a 20-year-old, as a 17-year-old, he may want to with all of his heart to re-find his dad and who am I, and I've grown up and all those things Dad used to get so mad at me about. It's different now. But that 17-year-old's body is every time you walk in the room is like, run! Every time you give him something to like a chore or say, hey, I told you to pick up that whatever, and you were right to tell him, his body goes to DEFCON 1. And so I think you overhit it, right? You overcorrected from abusive to completely out of my life to move back in. That's a lot versus I mean, you can't just drop a newly fully formed bridge across a big river, right? You got to build it slat by slat, and I think that's what you'll have to do here.
Yep. There is a lot of history and stuff that he doesn't know.
About what? About what?
The divorce and
does
the
he
marriage.
Does he need to? Who cares? You were a grown-ass man, and you took it out on a kid. I don't care what was happening in your marriage. And I know that sounds callous, but he doesn't need to know what happened in your marriage and how awful his mom was. He doesn't need to know any of that. He needs his dad to sit down at a restaurant somewhere between here and Wisconsin and say, I wrote a letter that I'm going to read to you. And it starts with, dear son, I'm so sorry I let you down. I didn't know what I was doing. I was over my head. My marriage was a wreck. I had no tools in my toolkit, and I loved you, and I showed you in the worst possible way. And I've sent you on a path to learning to be dishonest, to get what you need, because I couldn't give it to you, and I didn't give it to you. And fill in the blank. The only way this works, Kyle, is you take a knee in front of that 20-year-old and say, I've failed you, and that ends today.
And they did.
Okay, how'd that go? I'm proud of you for doing that, by the way. That takes a lot of courage. I make it sound all easy on the radio. That's hard to do. How'd that go?
It was probably the hardest thing I'd ever said to anybody in my life.
Did you feel 50 pounds lighter after you're saying that stuff?
Oh yeah,
I bet so. So tell me how'd it go?
Went good. He thanked me for being honest about it because it's what he had accused me of for years, and I denied it.
Yeah.
And I think because when he first called me, I was like, man, I don't know if I can do this with him right now.
It doesn't count over the phone, by the way.
Yeah.
Over the phone is step one. It has to happen in person. So if y'all talked on the phone and you said a bunch of stuff, that's cool. That's a cool, like, partial first step, but that's not it.
Yep. So yeah, we're trying to set up a time to meet. He lives in Iowa now. So we're trying to set up a time that we can meet and get together.
Kyle, Don't set up a time. Get in your car and go see your son. This isn't something you arrange. This isn't something that you walk out of your job and say, I'll be back. I'm going to get my son. Like even if you drive all the way from Tulsa to Iowa for a 2.5 or 3 hour meal together and you drive home. But he has to know Dad's coming to get me. There's no more tiptoeing and this, like what happened has happened. The only thing you can change is what happens next. Fair?
Absolutely fair.
And here's how I think here's how I think you got to start building those slats back. I think you make a commitment to yourself and to him. I'm going to write him a letter every week and mail it to him. I'm just thinking about you. I want you to know I'm so proud of you. I want you to know I love you. One time, you're not probably going to remember this, but one time when you were a little kid, fill in the blank. That's it. And what's going to happen in real short order, by the end of this time next year, he's going to have 52 letters from his old man. He's even going to get annoyed that you keep sending them. And after letter 36, he's like, Dad, we're good. You don't have to keep sending these. And you're like, I know. But you will never go another week of your life not knowing that your dad loves you and is committed all in on you. Now, that does not mean he gets access to your checking account. That doesn't mean that you become an ATM for him or whatever. But that means I'm going to love you. So why did he reach out?
No, I'm going to.
No. Why did he reach out?
Oh, why did he reach out?
Uh-huh.
So a lot of the patterns that I put on him when he was a kid, he's exhibiting now as a young adult.
Yeah.
And he got, as far as I know, got kicked out of his mom's house.
Okay.
For, I'll just say not being kind to his younger sister. Okay.
There is a moment when you confront your son on that and you say, I let you down. You cannot let this cycle continue. It has to stop with you. It has to stop with me. It has to stop with you.
Yep.
Is he calling?
That's kind of where I'm struggling.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I know all these things about that he's kept secret from me as far as his home life and fighting with his sister and his mom. And I feel responsible for that. And at the same time, I also feel like he needs to be held accountable for that because some of it's his own decisions.
He's a 20-year-old man.
Now.
He's a 20-year-old man. That's exactly right. But sometimes accountability looks like, hey, I can't get you out of jail. I'll hold your hand. I'll sit with you. You're not going to do this alone. His experiences now are a context, not an excuse. He does not have free reign because you didn't show up for him as a kid. He does not have free reign to burn other people to the ground. He's got to be held accountable. Good for his mom for kicking him out of his house if he's making it unsafe for his little sister. Good for her for upholding boundaries. And if he's reaching out to you,
I honestly didn't see that coming.
Well, if he's reaching out to you just because he's looking for a crash pad, you'll need to have that conversation because he has no interest in rebooting your relationship. He has every interest in just getting free rent. And that's two different things.
That's kind of what I'm worried about is that the reach out was for ulterior motives.
It probably. But tell him, I love you too much. We are combustible. We're going to have to build this thing back slowly. And I will contribute a couple $100 a month to an apartment out here if you want to move out here. But you're going to have to work too. Oh my gosh, after all this, you're just going to... No. I love you so much. You got to learn some lessons that I should have taught you when you were little. And I can't sleep at night if I let this thing continue.
Yeah.
And so I think the reentry here has to be you and your new wife setting the boundaries, right? Like, son, I don't engage with folks that lie. That's a choice as a grown man that I've made. I also don't walk away from people that I love. And so I'm asking you, don't choose to walk away from me by being dishonest. Number two, when you move back in here, that was not we have to learn, we have to teach our bodies that each other is safe. It's not going to work for you just to move back in here. Apartments in this area are this much. I'll contribute this much. I'll call my buddy at the shop to help you get a job or whatever he's doing. help him get to college or whatever. But
Yeah.
and there's going to be some starts and stops, some ups and downs. He's going to get mad. You can invite him to counseling with you if you'd like to. But ultimately, you can't be responsible for his healing as much as you want to try to get a redo on that. What's happened.
Yep.
What you can do is love him right now. But he's a grown man now. He's got to make his own choices, which is hard.
Yep. And I'm trying to support him anyway, but financially. I did send him your show. He started listening. He went all the way back to the first episode, and he's listening from the back forward.
Well, I think you let him know, hey, I'm coming on Saturday, or I'm coming next Friday. I'm taking you to dinner. And I think you and your wife figure out how to make that happen financially and time-wise. And y'all talked in person, but you got to look him in the eye. And I'd write it down, man, because it can get real heavy and it can get real blubbery and be very hard. I would look him in the eye and read that letter to him. And then from there, say, what do you need? How can I love you right now? And then align what he's asks for with those new boundaries. But yeah, you may have taught him some things as a young kid. That doesn't give him license to run over his little sister or his mom or anybody like that. And here's the thing. Did you play that right when he was young? No, you didn't. You let him down. And have you made it a mission in your life to not only create new paths for your family that you have now, your new family, but also provide opportunities for him to be the dad that he didn't have growing up? Absolutely. And I commend you for that. It's hard. It's day by day. There's a lot of guilt. And there's going to be moments that come up, things probably you forgot that he remembers you're going to feel guilty about. The challenge for you is going to be to not go to shame. You did some stupid stuff when you were young and in a toxic marriage, but you're not stupid stuff. That's the difference between guilt and shame. Something you did versus something you are. Because now you're not that guy anymore. You're the dad that's going to run out after his prodigal son and say, please come home. I'm sorry. Please come home. And by the way, you can't stay in the house. You can stay in an apartment down the street. And you got to get a job. You got to go to college. And I'll meet with you once a week if that's what you want to do. We're going to build a relationship back brick by brick by brick. We're not just going to hand him the keys to a new car. We're not going to hand him the keys to a new highway. Together, y'all are going to rebuild this brick. But that, for all the parents listening, that rebuilding relationship with your kids starts with you. Starts with you. What if my kid's the one? It starts with you. You're the mom. You're the dad. Make the call.